Good morning. This is Shelby Law with the Great Basin Prescribed Fire and Smoke Briefing for Wednesday, March 27th, 2024. First up, we're looking at precipitation here for the past 7 days on the left and the past 30 days percent of normal on the right. It's been a pretty active week for storms tracking through the Great Basin, especially across the north and Utah. Portions of Nevada have been slightly on the drier side, but still some precipitation there in the last week. And then the past 30 days percent of average, we're seeing above average precip over Idaho into western Wyoming and across portions of Utah, especially southern Utah with that low that moved through a little over a week ago. Still dry over central and southern Nevada. Looking at snow here on the left, we have the past 72 hours of snowfall in this image, and we can see that there, again, most of the high elevation precipitation that we've had over the past few days has come in the form of snow. So that's snow to Idaho, Wyoming, and much of Utah, and then the higher elevations, of course, of central and eastern Nevada. Our snowpack shown here on the right is still showing pretty healthy amounts for Utah and Nevada with above average values. There along the Sierra front, the values are right around average for the time of year, but further north over Idaho, especially the central Idaho mountains, those values are not as high as we'd like to see them, sitting below average for the time of year up there. Okay, switching to our satellite imagery this morning, we do have a really short-lived high pressure moving into the Great Basin today. This is kind of our break day with sunny skies in place today between the storms we had over the weekend and the storms that are coming for the rest of this week with this low off the Pacific coast. This is going to slowly move into the western U.S. and bring us about 5 days worth of storms after today. So again, by this afternoon, still looking at that short-lived high pressure moving into the Great Basin today. Some moisture already moving into portions of the north by later in the day and overnight. Ventilation rates are going to be pretty high through most of the week, actually. So high values for today. Transport winds here on the left are showing the winds associated with that low pressure off the coast already starting to move into Idaho and northwest Nevada, and we have really high mixing heights across the area today. Maximum temperatures today are going to be in the 50s, some upper 50s, even maybe hitting 60 across much of Nevada with those sunny skies today. And probability of precip is pretty low across the area, except maybe over the central Idaho mountains, east central Idaho mountains there, as that low begins to move closer to the area. All right, by Thursday, the low swings in close to the coast here, the Pacific Northwest coast, and we start to see moisture streaming into the Great Basin. So we will see an increase in precipitation, pretty widespread across the Great Basin tomorrow. Ventilation rates are still quite elevated. Transport winds really pick up as this low moves through, so we're seeing pretty gusty winds over much of Utah, southern and western Nevada. Winds lighten up a bit over Idaho, but pretty breezy day as the low begins to move in. Mixing heights also remain very high on Thursday. On Friday, the low drops south along the west coast, and so we continue to see moisture streaming into the Great Basin out ahead of that low, ventilation rates remaining pretty high. On Friday, the winds are concentrated over the southern tip of the Great Basin with lighter winds further north, so gusty winds 30-35 miles an hour or so, and maybe even higher in some spots across southern Nevada and southern Utah, and then the mixing heights still staying very high. The clearing index for the next few days is shown here. As is expected, those values are also very high. Shouldn't have very many prohibited areas for prescribed fire over the next couple of days in Utah. The colors aren't showing up very well on this Thursday map, but those values are all at 1050, which is as high as the scale goes. Okay, 3-day precip accumulations are shown here. So this takes precip through Saturday morning. Again, today is going to be clear, but Thursday into Friday and into Saturday, we'll see that precipitation moving in, bringing high elevation snow and low elevation mix of rain and some snow. Into the day on Saturday, more of the same is expected. That low slowly moving inland over Southern California, continuing to bring moisture up into the Great Basin. Ventilation rates remaining pretty high. And then finally on Sunday, that low really moves inland, moves across the Great Basin, bringing continued precipitation to the area, lots of moisture around, ventilation rates remaining high again. And then finally by Monday, that low will drop south over into the desert southwest, bringing some clearing skies to the Great Basin. Ventilation rates will still be high on Monday. And then on Tuesday, we will bring in a high pressure ridge into the Great Basin through the bulk of the work week next week for warming temperatures and sunny skies. Ventilation rates will begin to decrease as we move into next week with that high pressure moving in. The precipitation accumulations for days 4 and 5. This is Saturday and Sunday for the most part here. Again, widespread precipitation expected over Utah and Nevada. For the most part, a little bit of drying across the north as that low moves through the Great Basin and then drops further south. The extended forecast for April 3rd through the 9th is calling for below normal temperatures across much of the western U.S. and above normal precipitation across those areas as well, especially over the Great Basin. This concludes today's smoke dispersion briefing. Please check back on Friday for the latest updates.